Welcome to the Story A Day podcast. This is Julie Duffy from storyaday.org, encouraging you to be a writer every day, not someday. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Julie from Story A Day here. Just a quick podcast this week. I was talking last week about our ability to sing our own praises. So I just have a little assignment for you this week, which is to look at how other writers, not so much talk about themselves, but how they are talked about in the bios that go along with the short stories that they have published and the blurbs on the back of their books. Start collecting examples of how other people and their publishers are doing that, and just build a little file for yourself. Don't worry about writing one for yourself yet, but start collecting examples. In marketing, they call this a swipe file, things that you can steal from. I came across an Instagram post this morning from an author who just posted a picture of herself and said, "This is the face of someone who has written 19 books. I am awesome." And I wish that everybody could talk about themselves that way. I'm pretty sure she had to psych herself up to do it. But I was like, yeah, great. I'd probably read your books because you have confidence in what you're doing. No one's going to want to read your stuff if you are apologizing for it and for yourself all the time. So that's my assignment for you this week, is just to go out and start collecting. Whenever you run across a bio, just collect it. Take a photograph of it, copy it, send it to wherever you keep your files, and just gather them. And don't worry about writing your own yet, just gather them. With that said, I'm going to move us swiftly along to a writing prompt, because nothing calms the voices in our heads better than actually doing the work. Anxiety about our writing is quite often tamed by just getting lost in a story. So I am bringing you a writing prompt now. I hope that you will work on it this weekend, or whenever you're listening to this podcast. Try and write to the end of the story as fast as you can. Don't worry about making it good. Just get it done. And then we can go from there. If you want to learn to write, don't read another book or article. Start writing. I'm here to invite you to consider the Story A Day 3-Day Challenge. It's a challenge and a workshop that gets people writing and completing stories in just 3 days. And it works. I'm fanatical about getting more and more diverse stories into the world, and I think yours should be among them. If you're feeling the pull to write or level up your storytelling, let me hold your hand through 3 days of short story writing. Check out the 3-Day Challenge at storyaday.org/3DC. This prompt comes from Michael X. Wang, who is the author of Further News of Defeat, a story collection that came out in 2020. And he is assistant Professor of English and Creative Writing at Arkansas Tech University, whose work has appeared in the New England Review, the Glassboro Review, Day One, Juked, and other places. And the prompt that he gave us is this: 1002 Arabian Nights. Tell a story as survival. So your protagonist is telling a story within a story in order to avoid some kind of disaster. So thank you to Michael X. Wang for that prompt. You can find a link to his short story collection in the notes. But let me chat for a little bit about how you might approach this prompt. You're going to have to think about the usual things, where the story's set, who your character is, why they're in this situation, what disaster are they trying to stave off. You could go with just a straight Scheherazade retelling. You could have somebody in that kind of modern day situation where they've been kidnapped and they're trying to keep their, maybe they're in the pickup truck and they're being taken away and they're trying to keep the driver sweet. Or It could be, a mother trying to keep her children entertained. It could be characters in a comic book who are telling a story, and maybe the characters they're telling stories about step out of the story and into the first story. You could go all kinds of directions with this. I think the key is to think about something that doesn't sound too complicated, and then just run with it. And if it starts to get weird and surreal and step outside its bounds and try and do difficult stuff, just let it. See what happens. It might not succeed today. It might turn into a glorious mess. And that's okay. Make yourself some notes. Once you get completely tangled up, either end the story and resolve it, or make some notes to yourself about where you thought it was going to go. But I like the idea of just ending the story. The disaster happens, or the car crashes, or the story ends and something has changed between the two characters, the one who was hearing the story and the one who wasn't. And don't be afraid to make a big mess today, because we can come back to this. We have time for rewriting, letting ideas stew. Sometimes you come back to your stories and you immediately find ones that you want to work on, or that are in tip-top condition, and you're like, I'm going to send this out, or that I really want to work on that one a bit more. And sometimes they sit for a little bit and your subconscious works on them, and then you go to a workshop or a class, or you're just talking to another writer. Maybe you're talking to somebody and they say something and you go, oh, that story within a story I wrote, that would help me solve it. And then you drag it out and you have another look at it, and it all comes together. So never be afraid to make a big mess. These are short stories. It's not going to take the same kind of unraveling that a novel would take. Make a glorious mess. And if you don't make a glorious mess today and your story comes out beautifully, lucky you. Keep writing. Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at storyaday.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week, and of course, keep writing.